Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tanguy Jacobin. We are on K2Born, and the topic of the day is BRIC or BIC. What is the potential of Russia? In this issue, what we like to do is to shed the light on the potential of Russia to be considered as one of the countries with most growth potential, because obviously BRIC stands for Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and BRIC stand only on Brazil, India, and China. So we're going to see that it's true that on a certain extent Russia has been suffering some major restructuration in the last 20 years, but where are they? So when we look at the growth before 2008, no doubt that was quite striking, 50%. Now until 2012, well, it represented even 70%. So just to remind it briefly, when we're talking on the BRIC, we're talking about the process of catch-up by these four economies, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, concerning the economies of the G6. As you can see, Russia is supposed to move fast forward compared to Brazil. Nevertheless, recent movement, recent doubt concerning strategic issues linked with Putin regime, the doubt concerning Ukraine, are putting some fear among investors among what may happen. And well, if you want some more issues, just go back on the BRIC topics that we did on K2Born. But basically what happened, it's pretty simple. Timonil is looking for return on investment. So it's about shoot of growth, as they say in the Russian company Systema. So here it's interesting to see, hey, what are they doing? And it's true that if you look at the Russian demographics between year 1 and 2003, you'll see that, okay, if we consider former USSR, we're talking about almost 300 million inhabitants. The problem is the Russian Federation in itself counts only for 143, to be exact, million inhabitants. And life expectancy is going down. So this is a major issue to be taken into consideration, because there's a possible lack of dynamism. And you can see it that Russia went up until year 1913, just at the eve of World War I, and right now it's getting down, and you've got always less people from this area. So from this point of view, Russia needs to question where it can go. One of the major Russian think tank, Valdai Institute, has said, well, why don't we use our position between Europe and Asia to move fast forward? And Putin just use it and say, well, this is what we want to go. There was a famous article in Izvestia just before his current mandate saying this will be the aim. In a sense, it makes a lot of sense, and it makes even more sense when you consider that during the last period, growth in USSR in constant dollars of 1990s, among the data from OECD, well, you can see that it's not growing. And before 1870, the Russian growth was lower than European growth. So to a certain extent, many reform needs to be established in Russia to move away from a unique development based on heavy industrialization to focus more on consuming goods, and to be sure that this country has a rightful potential to be among the four BRICs. So this is something that it's fundamental to keep it in mind, because again, when we look at the GDP per capita, you can see that it has been decreasing for 2 decades. We're going to come back on this later on, And the arrival of Putin, well, coincided with an increase of the GDP capital from 1,300 up to 13,000 USD, increased by 10. So you say lots of inequalities among Russia. It's true. You've got lots of inequalities, but there was a middle class during communist period, and pension, thanks to the increasing price of commodities, were increased as well. So it's important to consider this element, because you can see that Russian companies are always more present in Forbes Global 2000 companies. They've been moving from 6 to 28 recently, so multiplied by 4. So that's not so bad data. But again, if we look at the share of the worldwide GDP, you can say that the decline, most of people consider the decline of the former Soviet Union in the 70s, 90s, but it's much before. It's you can say that it was in the 1950s. So that USSR got the climax of its power. So just before, let's say, the death of Stalin. So it's a problem because there's no improvement, even when commodity prices are high. So this is a big issue, because to have a budget calibrated, the oil price needs to be at 100 USDs barrel. It's high. If there's some new discovery of oil or gas, shale gas, for instance, new technology, development of renewable energy, let's say that the leverage of Russia will be getting worse. So this is the reason why Russia needs to calibrate really well its potential to be sure that it can be considered as a BRIC. In terms of reserve, you say, okay, no problem, it's great. Here, this graph is really interesting because you can see 16 years during which the crash of former USSR, and you can see that the Chinese approach to say, let's have a transitional reform by changing progressively the communist economy into a market economy, keeping all the structure of the power, keeping the universities, and so on. A major success in that sense, without any doubt. And this is something that it's really difficult to let's say, to earn back these 16 years. You can say that one generation has been sacrificed, which is truly the case, but until what extent can we say that this sacrifice provided some great return on investment for the future generation? If we can ask it like that, until what extent the sacrifice was provoked by Gorbachev, was it okay or not? Personally, I've got some doubt. In terms of freedom, it's better. So this is without any doubt a key issue. And I think when China will truly open the economy, it will be possible to measure until what extent Gorbachev reforms were useful now. So here again, if we look at Russian GDP in terms of purchasing power parity since the fall of Soviet Union, you can see that it's moving up. And it's quite interesting to see that mandate of Putin is getting up. But here it seems that some difficulties are rising. Apart from 2 years of difficulties that existed after subprime and euro crisis. Subprime and sovereign debt crisis in the Eurozone. So what can we say? If we make a sum up, we can say that globally, inflation was kept under control in the last year, even as there was only one peak in 2008 at 14%, now down at 6%. The problem is the growth is going down as well. So Russia needs to make some reform to attract investment. The opportunity to have the Olympic Games at Sochi was a great idea. Unfortunately, investors didn't show up with a fear about the environment. Good ideas were done just to develop as well another part of Russia, just to create new clusters, just to have Formula One as well. So these are great ideas. So the idea to develop a Skolkovo business school as a model of MIT, focusing on entrepreneurship, this is quite new. So these are some elements that are quite interesting to, let's say, increase performance. But it has to be done properly. And here again, can we say that Skolkovo is a success? You can see that's a movement there. We're going to see how it's changing. Now, if we move again to another issue, you can say in terms of debt, great success, because to manage to lower the general government gross debt from 100% to 7%. I know many countries that would like to be in the Russian situation. So I think it's relevant. Now, the issue is just to say, okay, we as the Russian government and we as Russian firms, I just put myself, if I was part of the Russian Federation, what can we do in order to strengthen our position in a short future? Okay, so I would say that these are the opinions that we've got at K2Born, but globally speaking, what is really important to understand is that Russia has made fantastic reform. Above all, when we consider the situation in which it was in the mid-90s, a fantastic recovery. This is a major reason why it can be, Russia should be considered as a BRIC, and not as we shouldn't speak about the BIC. But still too much dependency on commodities, and inequalities have to be lowered. As soon as this will happen, the development of the middle class in Russia will offer fantastic opportunities, and consuming goods will push Russia even better. Okay, this is it concerning the topic BRIC or BIC, the potential of Russia. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.